Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Now and Then Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Jordan, along with Michael Vee and Nick Cutler, and we are here to talk about the now in professional wrestling and then wax nostalgic about the then of professional wrestling. And boy, do we have a doozy of a then for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We have not been doing this very long. We only have a few episodes under our belt, but I am going to say that we have now watched the worst pay-per-view that we will ever watch and review.
Fuck.
We will go over it here in just a few minutes. WCW Mayhem. From
I don't want you to jinx us and say that, and then something else happens.
I can't imagine that there's a worse pay-per-view, but we'll I promise we will.
we will discuss that. Yeah.
About a bad pay-per-view. So that we will have plenty to talk about, even though it was atrocious, almost up and down. But first, we got some stuff that we want to talk about now, because it's been a couple of weeks since we have had a chance to sit around and bullshit about professional wrestling between the three of us fellas. And there's a few things that have kind of built up that we need to talk about. And I'm going to start with a story that broke about Karrion Kross. And the reason that I'm going to start with this is because we talked about Jeff Hardy the last time, and I think the two stories tie together in the conversation that we were having in our group chat, but I want to bring it here. Those of you that don't know, Karrion Kross did an interview with, I think it was Renee Paquette. What's his name's wife? John Moxley's wife.
What's his name?
Yeah, well, what's his
that guy?
Name? The one in rehab. That guy. Karrion Kross and Scarlett. I don't even know what he's going by. Karrion Kross. I don't know what he's going by these days, but him and Scarlett Bordeaux.
Killer Cross when he's on the indies. So
I was gonna say it has to be something with the letter K, because he's married to the letter K for some reason, first and last name. It's either Killer or Karrion or so. The next one was Kyle. It was gonna be Kyle Cross.
Kyle Kross.
If the Rittenhouse verdict wasn't so controversial, he would have went with Kyle for sure.
I would have.
Damn it!
Now listen, he should be Kyle Kross in like full preppy outfit, like khakis, like come to the ring carrying roses, like he's gonna take. Now I would watch that version of Mr. Cross. The other versions don't do much.
I have no need for any of them. However,
yes.
The reason that this story is even interesting is he talked about the match that he had with Jeff Hardy after just debuting on Raw that went like 90 seconds, and he lost by roll up to Jeff Hardy. And a lot of people were very perplexed by the whole thing. And the stories come out, they've talked to him. He said it was basically changed in the ring. They had put together a match that was going to be about 4 to 5 minutes long. He gets into the ring for his entrance, and the referee tells him in his ear, hey, cutting it to 90 seconds. And obviously, it goes from there.
Before we get to that actual story, this just triggered that for me. Shout out to Jeff Hardy. This must have been a big moment for him, that match, because it was the first time that a match had to be cut short when he was not fucked up. So good for Jeff. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Through it.
Yes. It's the first time that a ref said we're going home early, and Jeff actually fucking understood what he meant. So good for Jeff Hardy.
Had nothing
good
to do with
Jeff Hardy. Right? Yes.
But the story goes that he really didn't know what to do. He kind of got blindsided by the whole thing. And then the discussion that we had and the disagreement that we ultimately have at this, and I want to bring out onto the show here in the public, is that we have a differing opinion on whether or not he should have done something about that. And Nick, I'm going to give this to you because you're the active professional wrestler of the three of us here. And you can most correctly talk about being in that position more than Michael and I could. Put yourself in that position. What would you do if you were Karrion Killer Kyle Kross?
I would have politely let them know that something else needed to be done.
How do you do that on the fly if you're getting told while you're in the ring and the referee's telling you?
The same way that you do when you call a match that's 12 minutes long and then it gets cut to 90 seconds. You just got to kind of discuss it in the ring. And Jeff strikes me as the kind of guy that probably would have been okay with it. It didn't need to be a pinfall. It could have been a DQ. It could have been a count out. It could have been anything to protect him, because this is, and I know that you guys aren't big fans of his, But for what they did with him in NXT, he was the hottest commodity coming out of there, getting called up to Raw. He was a monster. And then you pretty much job him out in 90 seconds to a well past his prime Jeff Hardy, who wasn't doing anything to warrant needing that victory. So it could have been done in so many different ways other than a pinfall, to where if the ref says in my ear, hey, your guys' match got cut to 90 seconds, I'd be like, okay, the finish needs to change too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, and it's not that I would say I'm not putting him over. I'll put him over, but we're gonna figure out a different way to do this.
Right. And I don't know that you're entirely wrong on that aspect of it. I think if he would have refused or have rolled up Hardy on his own to protect himself, then we're having a different conversation, because that's unprofessional.
I think we might have misunderstood each other when we were having the initial conversation.
Gotcha.
In our actual thread.
That happened. So yeah, V, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. It seems like there was a little bit of miscommunication on.
I definitely do though, because I still think that, and this has nothing to do with his talent ability, or talent or ability. I don't give a shit who it would be. I just don't think it fucking matters. Like first of all, we need more 90-second pinfalls in fucking wrestling anyway. And especially fucking Raw with its 3 hours. But, we were talking about this. In real fighting, a flash knockout does not hurt your fucking value. It's an accepted part of the sport. And when All Japan Pro Wrestling, when it was the best wrestling that there has ever been fucking, as Bret Hart would say, fucking the best there is ever was and ever will be is All Japan Pro Wrestling in the 90s. But they would do main events occasionally, like at Budokan Hall, like their big shows that went like 3 minutes. Like, because you are conditioning fans to give a shit about the early part of the match. So I don't have a problem with it. And just from like a does it hurt you standpoint, I don't think it hurts anybody. Who the fuck cares about a Raw result? Like, if you continue to do it to them, absolutely. But does it really hurt your drawing ability or how you perceive because you got beat by Jeff Hardy one time in 90 seconds with a fluke win? It's a roll up. Like, it wasn't like he just smashed him, gave him his finish, and pinned him in 90. Yeah. Now to Nick's point, after that happened, because you can't be a fucking mark for the business or for just, hey, I'm happy to be here. You got to treat yourself as a brand too. Your money is tied into merchandising and the like. So absolutely, after the match, I have the conversation and just say, hey, I have no problem doing what you asked, but I also just want to be clear on where we're going here.
Sure.
Like, because you have a right
he
to
said
know
he
that.
had that conversation, and he feels like that might have been what got him fired, just from voicing it up. Like, hey, where are we going with this?
I would say this: if the smartest thing he could have done was do what they did, but get his heat back after the match. And Hardy's
absolutely. I was just getting ready to ask you guys, because I don't watch Raw. I watch the pay-per-views pretty much, and that's it. But I was like, did he get any kind of rebuttal off of that? Like, after the match, did he attack him? Did he do anything?
I don't think so. And I think it was indicative. I don't know that the conversation's what got him fired. I have a feeling they were willing to do that to him because they didn't see what they thought they saw in him. I really feel that. They thought they saw something with Hit Row. They put him on the main roster, and then it didn't get the reaction they were hoping for. So they were just like, cut bait, and let's move on.
Yeah, and that goes to what Ben and I have talked about in the thread, just that he's, we don't see him as a guy worth pushing. I mean, and this is where, Nick and I, and he agreed, but we were kind of going back and forth about it, was just that, like, not everybody, you're not always going to be, like, nobody really gets into the business thinking, man, I'm going to be the best fucking opening match, comedic jobber of all time, whatever the fuck, like Santino. Like, nobody gets into the business thinking, yeah, I'm going to do what Santino did. But they didn't see him as a top guy. And what did he do? He fucking ran with it, and he made millions with an S of dollars. Like, there's also that too. Like, yes, you might see yourself as a badass worth pushing to the top, and X amount of fans on social media might think that. But again, like, look at the talent level that's there. They have pretty much anybody that they want. Like, this isn't fucking Impact. Like, you can be a top guy in Impact, and you can be an opening mid-card guy in WWE. Just make the fucking most of it and make your money.
It's true. I agree with you. The next thing I want to talk about is an interview and a quote from Bret Hart coming from a recent interview that he did.
Yeah.
This is going to stir up some lively conversation, I believe, between the two. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna bring it up on the screen here so people can see it. Oh no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't. Okay, I'm just gonna read it first. So, quote from Bret Hart: "I took wrestling in a different direction. I think when you look back today, they don't wrestle like Hulk Hogan anymore. They wrestle like Bret Hart. Wrestling's all about action and speed and telling a story, and I think that's where I came in." Now, I don't know where to start, but I'm going to start with Michael V because I think he's got the most fucking venom here to spew. I'm very eager to hear. Maybe it's not venom, but I'm eager. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. V, what is your reaction to that quote?
There are going to be some venomous topics on this show. This one for me isn't as much. He probably gives himself too much credit, but as far as, look, WWF was the first national promotion. They were the biggest. I mean, it started, huge in 84 and 85. So by the time that Bret comes along, if you're looking at it from, this is the biggest company and they've never had a style like that before, and he did it first on that level and at the top, he's kind of right. He's overstating it a little bit, but he's not completely crazy either. He did not invent this style for pro wrestling. Like, that's the part. Yeah, but it just depends kind of in the context that he meant it.
I agree with you because I do think he has a point to an extent.
Sure.
Because before Bret Hart, he was the first fighting champion, right? Where the champion wrestled on television often, was defending the belt. He brought that, and they've never gone back from that. Roman Reigns now just a little bit they're starting to do that with, but for a very long period of time, they went with the fighting champion model that Bret Hart brought in and made palatable to the WWE audience. They were then conditioned to expect the champion to be wrestling on television often. It changed that from the Hulk Hogan style of you see him cutting promos on television, but you're not seeing Hulk Hogan defending the belt a lot on anything other than Saturday night. I know, Nick, you're a huge Bret Hart fan. I'm curious what you took from this, and do you agree with him? Do you not agree with him? Give me your thoughts.
I feel like I knew exactly where Mike was going to go with it, in the sense that Bret was responsible for bringing it to a mainstream, but he wasn't responsible for creating the style because they were already doing that in Japan.
Right. And as Joe points out in the comments, Bret has given credit to Dynamite Kid for changing the style of wrestling. Really,
absolutely.
He's the guy that changed the idea of what a professional wrestling star, what kind of style they had to wrestle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to say bad things about Bret, but I understand why some people do. He could have worded that better and said that he brought it to the mainstream as opposed to giving himself all the credit and saying, I'm responsible for doing that. No, you're responsible for doing that in WWE. Yes, you are. Would it have happened without him? Maybe, but it would have taken a really, really long time, because when you think about it, after Bret lost the belt, it went to Yoko. And then it fluctuated between him and who was the next small guy to get it? Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have had to have waited 4 years until Vince was finally sold on Shawn being a top guy. And who knows what would have happened then. So I feel like Bret was critical in that transition, but to say that he is responsible for it, that is open to interpretation.
Because if I'm going to play devil's advocate the other way, when I was reading this and thinking about it, I had to think like Ric Flair really is more responsible for that type of style main event of a world champion than Bret Hart is. But Bret Hart did it on the biggest stage, and like I said, made that style of champion acceptable and palatable to the audience that had never been introduced.
Well, even expanding on that a little bit though, and I agree with you. I think Flair brought that style especially because if in that era, Hulk Hogan era especially, and for me, WWF, if you look at their attendance figures and things like that, the Bay Area where I live is like one of their top probably 5 markets throughout the 80s. So I was in the minority, but WCW, Jim Crockett Promotions, that was always the home team for me. They drew much shittier crowds, but what people don't realize they definitely did. I saw War Games with like 4,000 people there. Okay, but
oh my god,
oh yeah, and I was at a show with like 1,500 people one time. But I mean, all that being said, they did a bad job.
What was the draw after the Bash 91 at that show that you went to?
It was, I think it was like 2,500 people. So it wasn't their worst. It wasn't their worst, but it was disappointing because that was the big arena. The timing couldn't have been worse because for them, that was their first time running in the Warriors arena, which is right off of the public transit system and all that. So they thought, we finally got in, and then Flair's gone. The Steiners aren't on the show. Like everybody that they advertised that like people wanted to see is not there. We want Flair chants the whole night. Big long band. I am fucking 12 years old. This is my first time ever like raging against the establishment. I'm joining in fucking We Want Flair chants. It was a big moment for me. But I mean, they were bad at selling tickets, and they could not market their product. But people, don't understand the cable ratings and things like that. Those things were like neck and neck, and WCW winning many weeks long before Nitro. So it's not like everybody didn't know who Ric Flair was. A lot of people knew who Ric Flair was, and a lot of people saw that style. TBS wrestling, like you're younger than us.
Chicago. My dad watched TBS, WCW
wrestling.
TBS, and that was my first introduction to pro wrestling too. Was the WCW NWA style of it. Saturday mornings was when I was finally awakened to WWF at the time, and that was obviously a completely different style. So yeah, I could definitely feel you when it comes to that.
And that was my dad. My dad didn't he would watch WWF with me too, but he did not enjoy it nearly as much as like hardcore Jim Crockett Promotions. Like that was like, they used to say that, he would never say it because he, knew it was a work, but a lot of people would say that all the time. Like, this is real, that, they thought like Jim Crockett Promotions was like real and WWF was like fake cartoon bullshit. And it's like, but they're bleeding all the time or whatever it is. I mean, like they had a really, strong fan base. They didn't always buy tickets, but they watched them on television. So Flair definitely gets a lot of credit for that because they don't do the same things. But as far as like the pace that he's talking about, that's Ric Flair.
Yep, I agree. So we, I guess the last thing before we get into the story that we want to talk about with the current producer crop in WWE.
God damn, I thought that was next.
No, we got to touch on one more thing because we always touch on all the different releases. And the latest release.
Oh, that's right.
Days ago, or actually yesterday, Toni Storm, who just wrestled Charlotte Flair on SmackDown for the Women's Championship. The story goes that she was in a 3-way match on SmackDown, lost that match, went backstage, asked for her release, and flew herself home, and was just like, "That's it, I'm done here." And they were like, "Okay, we'll go ahead and release you," which is obviously different than a lot of people that have left there recently. I think just we'll quickly hit on this, our thoughts on this. Quickly, my thoughts are, and I said this in the chat. AEW is going to scoop her up. She's going to debut 90 days from her fucking release. And she'll do just fine there. The women's division in AEW will get better because of it, because she's a good wrestler. And when given time to actually wrestle, she knows. And there's a lot of young girls on that roster that can learn from her, because she's Joshi trained. She's been in Japan. She's been all over the world wrestling. She definitely knows what the fuck she's doing. She just was never a real fit in WWE, whether it was NXT or WWE main roster. It just, I don't think they ever got her. Nick, your thoughts on Toni Storm?
I don't have any thoughts because I don't really recall ever watching her. Any of the NXT pay-per-views that I watched or any of the pay-per-views that I caught, I don't recall ever watching her perform. I've heard her name repeatedly, and for all intents and purposes, from what I hear about her and from what I read on Twitter, she should have been one of those ones that they were trying to keep, but that's news to me, because usually when someone asks for their release, unless they're like really, really shitty, they just make them sit out their contract just to be dicks.
Right.
So,
but at the same time, Nick Khan's probably looks at it and goes, if you don't want to be here, move on. We don't have to pay you, right?
Next investor call looks even better. That's what he's thinking. Go ahead.
Exactly. I think that there's not a lot to talk about there. I think that's exactly how it will all play out. AEW probably is very happy that they're going to get an opportunity to put her on the roster, and she'll make their wrestlers better.
I'll say that the only thing that's kind of, I wouldn't say surprising, but I think that WWE's being a little short-sighted on here. First of all, I think she's extremely talented, but just from the standpoint of like when AEW started, the one thing they really had no business doing whatsoever was a women's division, because they did not have the fucking talent to have a full-on women's division. Like it really stuck out compared to WWE women's matches. But now with Ruby Soho and with her, it's like you guys kind of, made one of their weaknesses a strength. Yeah, and with them, what was once a strength kind of becomes a weakness because, and I'm sure their fan base would disagree with me on this, but fuck, it's the same girls, man, like all the time. It's the same shit. That top mix is so stale.
I agree, but I will say this: there are some really talented girls on the AEW roster. One in particular.
Oh, there are. No, yeah.
I think a lot of. I think Penelope Ford is a fucking star. I think she's got it all. She's got the look. She knows what the fuck to do in the ring. She's still a little green, but I think Penelope Ford is really good. But she's also suffering from the fact that she's been on TV a lot when she's probably not been ready to be on TV as much as she has. Jade Cargill has kind of the same problem. She's really
they haven't been
a lot of raw talent, but they're learning on television, which is difficult to do. It's really difficult to do. And so we'll see. But adding more veterans to walk these girls through better matches is only going to make their roster better. So
absolutely.
Again, Tony Khan and AEW are going to luck into the fact that WWE is going in a different direction, and they don't want indie guys anymore. And so all the indie guys that were popular when Tony Khan loved PWG back in 2015, they're all available now, so he can fucking recreate it now on television. And that's what we're getting. We're getting all of that. Kyle O'Reilly, all of it. So
yeah, like AEW, we have to, like, none of the three of us watch their product, but we have to give them credit. Because whether they're quote unquote, a legitimate threat to WWE is irrelevant. For the first time since WCW closed, there is a legitimate number two. They are not going anywhere. They're locked in with very good TV rights. So I give them credit, but at the same time, there's also a lot of luck involved for them because it was a perfect storm, because as they're starting up, WWE is in the mindset of we don't give a fuck who we keep anymore. Not that long after, once the pandemic hits, and it's just allowed them to get an insane amount of talent. Insane.
I will go to the comments. Christy Wilson, thank you for watching and commenting. She asks, Penelope Ford may be further hindered by Allie, a.k.a. the Bunny, as her partner. What do you think? I haven't watched a lot. I watch AEW on social media. So I get small clips of what they do. So I haven't seen enough of her to say that she's good or bad, because she's generally just kind of like the side piece for Penelope Ford. I'm just enamored with Penelope Ford. I think
I feel like one of my homework assignments should be to watch an AEW pay-per-view at some point.
it's probably worth it because it is a completely different style of professional wrestling that's being presented. You have to look at it that way. You have to look at
I will say this.
like
I will say
Japanese
this.
style
I
wrestling.
glanced.
Go ahead.
I was scrolling social media, and I did see a stare down between if Kenny Omega decided to sign with WWE, AEW does it. You fucking bingo on that, Joe.
Probably.
When I saw that there was a stare off between CM Punk and MJF, that actually made me kind of stop and go, "Oh,
Yeah, they're good. They're good on the mic. They're
I
both
would be
really good.
very interested in seeing this because MJF is fucking amazing at what he does."
Listen, you won't find a guy. You won't find a guy that's going to shit talk CM Punk more than me. But it was fucking cool when him and Sting and Darby Allin teamed together and they all did face paint, like kind of marking out to each other. That was pretty fucking cool. I got to give it up to him. The Blade Runner. Punk came out with the Blade Runner fucking face paint, so it was pretty dope. So
say what you want about him, but he's a mark just like everybody else in the wrestling business.
And you know what? You know what that it is? That's the right there hits on what the difference is between WWE style and AEW style. AEW style is for wrestlers who are marks for the business, while WWE is wrestling for people that want to make money, professional wrestling, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I need a promotion that's like in between that lets me do both.
Right. All right, let's wrap this up before we move on. Oh, wait, hold on. Christy, do you guys think that Toni Storm should sign with it? Yes,
yes, absolutely.
She will.
Absolutely. Perfect fit.
She will be. Yes.
Hand in glove.
Okay, so this is a story that I've always thought about for a while, and I've never had a chance to like discuss it with people that are like-minded as me.
Oh, I'm so excited for this.
Michael V, you have something that you want to talk about when it comes to who is currently employed as a WWE creative producer for the company. I'm going to turn this over to you to kind of set this up.
I'm going to set it up, and then I'm going to have you read the list, and then I'm going to I will explode, and you guys can talk about WCW Mayhem when I'm laying on the fucking floor from the fucking heart attack or stroke that this fucking list gives me. I can see myself in the screen now, and like it just occurred to me of like how I actually look. This is not an act. Like, I am holding my head because I cannot fucking believe this list and what we're about to talk about here. So I sent this list.
I'm gonna say this to you guys, and I want you guys to actually do this. There is one name on this list that I think belongs on this list, and I want you guys to try to see if you can guess which one it is for me.
So currently, the current producer crop for WWE is Christopher Park, aka Abyss, Shane Helms, aka the Hurricane, Molly Holly, Jason Jordan, Petey Williams, TJ Wilson, and Ken Doane. Now, those of you that follow professional wrestling the way that we do, you may or may not know, but like producers have always classically been guys that were on the top of the business. And they were there to help guys that were just learning and coming in to the big time of the business, how to put matches together. We're talking Guerrilla Monsoon, right? The Guerrilla position is named such for Guerrilla Monsoon because he was a producer helping guys put together matches. You know, Chief Jay Strongbow is a classic WWE producer. Tony Gurria, classic.
George the Animal Steel.
George Steele, Blackjack Lanza, J.J. Dillon, Wahoo McDaniel, Bill Watt,
Arn Anderson,
right? Even now, even more recently, Dean Malenko. You can even argue is an okay name for a producer. Mm-hmm. However, Michael, that list is goddamn ridiculous.
It's a list of fucking people that they didn't even want to hire themselves. Why the fuck is TNA? Why are there so many fucking? All those TNA people were all available to be taken if WWE would have fucking wanted them in the slightest. And they're all fucking producing their matches. None of these guys draw money. Look, I don't. It's fine to have some guys that are like good hands and really understand the mechanics of putting together a match. Having one or two of those guys is fine. But there is nobody on your fucking roster, nobody in your producer's roster that is drawn money anywhere, and nobody you thought that, hey, I'll take this person because they'll add to my show. Like, Petey Williams is a great example. They could have had him anytime they fucking wanted. Right. And they never had him. They never said, of all their reboots of the fucking cruiserweight division, or we're splitting brands, or whatever the fuck it is. We're starting NXT. We're starting ECW again. Whatever the fuck that it is, they never even bothered with this guy, and now he's there. Why the fuck is he there?
Yeah.
Yes. And you wonder why people are apathetic to your product. We were apathetic to your producers, motherfuckers, and you knew it. That's why you didn't hire them. What the fuck?
The one that makes no fucking sense to me, no sense whatsoever, is
Jason Jordan? Yes. Yes.
Jason Jordan has no business telling anyone what it takes to be a professional wrestler.
It was a fucking pity job. He literally got hurt, found out he was never going to be able to wrestle again, and they said, "It's okay, kid. We'll take care of you."
Well, and I'll say this. In their defense, that is cool. Okay?
Yeah.
Fine. And you can do that. If you have a strong roster, then you can do that with a guy. And you can do that with TJ Wilson. But the rest of your fucking roster sucks. That's the fucking problem. They are signing people from the fucking promotion.
They literally brought Ken Doan back for that Spirit Squad reboot when he looked a million times better than he did when he was in 07, and they still didn't fucking hire him.
And they ditched him.
And now, but it's absurd that they're then hiring them to tell guys how to put together their matches. I can't imagine that I'm a professional wrestler who's been wrestling on the indies. If I'm Kevin Owens, or if I'm Sami Zayn, and Jason fucking Jordan is going to put together my match for me, I will be goddamned if I listen to anything Jason Jordan has to tell me about how to be a professional fucking wrestler. That is ridiculous. Find another, teach him how to sew and put him in the goddamn fucking outfit department. Find something else, but you cannot have him telling professional wrestlers how to be professional wrestlers and then expect them to know how to go out there and be professional wrestlers. What
does Bruce Pritchard say? Try the what if approach. Well, what if we did this? If Jason Jordan tells me I've been working for 15, 20 years and like been all over the world or drew some fucking money. If Jason Jordan says, what if we did this? My response is, what if you went and fucked yourself? Like, give me a fucking break. And the same thing with TNA. And the only difference between Jason Jordan and Petey Williams is that instead of saying it like this to Jason Jordan, you have to do it like this to Petey Williams.
Ben, I know you've probably seen Pineapple Express, right?
Yes, of course. What's wrong with you? What the fuck?
Okay, so literally that just made me of the beginning of that movie where that creepy teacher is talking to Seth Rogen and he just goes, "Why don't you go fuck yourself, you weird little prick?"
For real.
That would be my response.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine listening to any of those.
Joe,
maybe
we got a comment. Joe says it's sad that Molly Holly is probably their most experienced producer, but Molly is the one name on that list
That's what I was gonna guess. That's what I was gonna guess that your pick was Molly Holly.
Working with the girls
makes
is
sense.
Fucking so much better than fucking Lita. When I was doing my
110%.
regular, when I was doing my regular TVs with WWE, whenever they were in the area, it was always either Lita working with the girls or Sarah Del Rey. And Sarah Del Rey, yeah, like, cool. Get her in there with the fucking girls. But Lita, I'm like, she can't even put on a safe match herself. Like, she's.
I just want to say I love Sarah Del Rey. She does not get talked about enough or get enough credit. She is not just training women now; she is training men. And
one of the baddest women in the professional wrestling. I
had the pleasure of working with Sarah for multiple years out here at Pro Wrestling Iron. I love Sarah. She is one of the sweetest human beings on the planet, and I watched a lot of the struggle for her of like trying to get in and feeling like, there was a point there where she felt like she would never be accepted because of the way that they presented wrestling at that time. Yeah, exactly. And over-sexualized and stuff like that. And Sarah has a soul and a conscience too. So, I mean, that's just not her in every capacity. And, she really struggled with like where she was going to end up and whether or not she would make it. And that is one of the people that like I am on a personal level so happy for, because she's had such a huge impact on the business. She's fucking tremendous. But Molly is somebody that is, can kind of fit that similar role. Somebody who was, more focused on the work and definitely ahead of her peers at the time and bring that into the thing. And here's the thing with that list too. Like Petey Williams, I don't fucking get Abyss. Like there's people on here that I just don't get. But like Shane Helms was pretty solid in the ring. He knew how to work the crowd and work a character. He got over when really he shouldn't have many fucking times. Like I don't have a problem with a lot of the guys that they pick. It's just that you can have one or two of these guys, but your whole ensemble cannot be these guys. And that's part of the reason why your product is the way that it fucking is. It just makes no sense.
It's a total reflection of the product that they're putting out. Is who are the guys producing it?
And when I sit there and I'm like, I'm remembering all the agents when I would be at TVs, and it was Arn Anderson, it was Dean Malenko, it was Road Dogg, it was Michael Hayes, it was like with the girls, it was either Sarah or Lita. And I'm just like looking at this list, like, what the fuck happened?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. And Ben Monty's watching the show, and we appreciate that, and thank you for commenting. Shane Helms' best work was 3 count. Ironic that you say that, and that is the perfect segue to take us to.
I gotta disagree with that though. My favorite Shane Helms work,
Hurricane Helms is the best, right?
No, I liked it when he fucking turned heel and ditched the Hurricane character and did the whole longest reigning cruiserweight champion and did his little shtick with Matt Hardy in like 2006, I think is when it was.
See,
so, when he was Gregory Helms.
And I would argue that he had, and nobody saw this except for me and like 300 other people nationwide, was the very end of WCW. But when he turns from 3 count 2 and he's like, babyface singles world champion, and he had the Vertbreaker dancers and all that, like he was something that did not suck on a show that sucked. Like he, and that's the thing is that, Ben thinks it's 3 count, you brought Hurricane, he's bringing a post Hurricane. Like he's versatile. Like he's gotten over to and so all of that is fine. But he never, and I'm not disrespecting him because not everybody is in this position, but he wasn't drawing money at the top. Nobody's drawing money at the top and working with these guys, and they're all perpetuating like the same cycle of this wrestling where it's like technically very good, but it's not over. And that's where we're at, because if you look at WWE, the wrestling now, like in the ring, as far as like, what they technically do, it's probably better than it's ever been. But it's just fucking dull. Like it doesn't get over and resonate with the fans in the same way. And that's why guys like Hulk Hogan to me is super underrated. Like not so much when he got way over. Well, first of all, when he got way old and couldn't move, but when he was like super patterned, Hulk Hogan, like 89 on or so, like when it's just all shtick. But before that, like when he could still move a little bit. But the one thing that he did is like he could always fucking captivate the crowd. That is working. It's not just fucking moves. It's fucking like it, like people used to shit on Larry Zbyszko because he stalled all the time. Yes, he wasn't doing anything and he was drawing fucking a huge response. That's working. It's not easy. It's not a shortcut. If everybody could do it, then everybody should fucking do it. But it's a skill and it has to be taught.
It's funny that you say that because I kind of on the same subject, but it reminded me of it. I saw a quote from Bryan Danielson earlier where when he decided he was going to come back and he was going to do the eco fucking friendly heel Bryan Danielson, he said that he went back and watched a bunch of Jerry Lawler from Memphis to learn how to work with kicks and punches and still get heat. And if you go and watch, that whole run of the eco-friendly champion was basically, Bryan Danielson doing a Jerry Lawler impression. And then that's kind of along the same lines of what you're talking about.
This is a funny story, okay? Because in 2001, when he came to APW to be the head trainer, and we talked about his career because we did a long audio interview for our website that I ended up having to transcribe, which I wish I had the audio interview because it was fucking awesome. But he did not like his time in Memphis. He liked working with Regal, but the Memphis style was so not his style at that time. And if you saw him work, you could definitely tell, but he did not like I didn't hear this part from him, but I heard it from somebody else. But one of the guys had told him, put your feet on the ropes when you're fucking, have a chin lock on or something. He was like, well, I've never been much for breaking rules or something like that. And the person just flipped the fuck out. You know what I mean? It was not his thing. But he's changed exactly the way that I think a lot of us have changed now to where, we were into that style at the time because it was new, it was different, we're getting exposed to it. And now that everybody kind of does that, we go back I'm talking about Hogan, and it's where the fuck is that gone? Yeah, and Lawler's a good example too. And Lawler doesn't get enough love anyway because his WWF shit is so bad compared to anything he did. It's fucking horrible, hokey bullshit. Pretty much the entire time that he's fucking there, never taken seriously. But Memphis, he's a man.
Except his work with Bret Hart.
See, his work with Bret Hart, it's okay, but the jokes are so forced and corny sometimes that he just came across. They never made him a threat. That was the problem with Bret Hart is that being a former champion in that time meant something. It gave you a certain status. And Jerry Lawler had no status. I did not watch the King of the Ring 93 live. And I remember I went to school the following Monday and asked my one friend, hey, what happened, King of the Ring? Oh, Bret won. Some old guy beat him up after. What the fuck? This is how people saw Jerry Lawler in the WWF. He was not a threat at all. But Memphis, he's total kick-ass babyface. And that's how Daniel Bryan has changed is how we've changed as far as when we go back and watch stuff. You see that, man, we kind of underestimated this stuff before because it's a skill, and it's a skill that the people now, a lot of them just don't have.
I agree, totally. All right, now, guys, it's time to go back.
Watch your mouth, Ben.
We're going to rewind back. A rewind review. We at the end of the last episode, if you guys aren't familiar, at the end of every episode, Nick puts into his spin the wheel, make a deal gimmick a year. We pick a year. He puts in all the pay-per-views, hits random, and it spins. And whatever pay-per-view it lands on, we review it. It's our homework. And then the next show, we come back and we long form go over the pay-per-view. Now, we have been very lucky, I think, so far. We've watched some really good stuff. There was some bad WCW pay-per-view. But it was
fun bad. It was fun bad.
Yeah.
It was fun bad, exactly.
This was not fun bad.
At all. I love fun bad. There's nobody who loves fun bad wrestling more than Ben Jordan. This was not fun bad. This was bad. This recalibrated what I perceive as bad wrestling. It is bad from the open. Every second of this feels bad. The way that the announcers talk about everything and the weird, not kayfabe way that the announcers were talking about things throughout the night. It was just everything about this was obviously a company that was completely directionless, rudderless, and was about to die. It's not,
and everyone knew it.
Much longer after this,
and everyone knew it.
It was
well, no. At this point, they're thinking that they're going to go to Bischoff. That's what they think at this point.
Maybe what they're hoping for. What you can see throughout the common thread throughout this entire pay-per-view is they are desperately trying to get the power plant guys over. They want those power plant guys to be stars so bad to carry them to the next, through the next phase. And every single match has those young guys forced into a spot that none of them are ready for or are capable.
Yes, they are pushing those guys, but it's not really them trying to create talent so much as all these guys are making like $70,000 a year. Right, because they started going crazy with contract cuts. I mean, they got rid of, everybody. And I mean, there was a lot of salary involved in that. Because you can look like, I'm for pushing young guys, but a lot of these guys, they are not ready to be on fucking pay-per-view by any stretch of the imagination.
No. Yeah, some of them weren't ready to be on TV.
I agree.
General.
Yeah, they were just pushed way too quickly into the spots that we talked about Eric Watts a couple weeks ago. This is like a pay-per-view filled with Eric Wattses.
Well, and the thing is too is that a lot of these guys, I mentioned this to you guys in the thread, you got to keep in mind is that some of them just weren't good because they were on TV. Like they were on TV before Nitro. WCW Saturday Night had been turned into like a show for just, power plant and young guys that Jimmy Hart was booking. So they were getting, angles, matches, all that stuff, TV time. And even this is, probably for the most of their cases, 4 or 5 months after being on Nitro, and they're just fucking bad, man.
Trash. Okay, so just to set it up, this event takes place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on November 26th, 2000. Paid attendance is listed as 3,800 people. Your commentators for the evening are Tony Schiavone, Mark Madden, and Stevie Ray, Michael V's favorite commentator.
Let's finish, Tony.
Gene Okerlund and some unnamed blonde chick were your backstage interview.
Pamela Paulshock. Did you ever watch the show Blind Date?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I believe that was the name of it. I'm pretty sure it was Blind Date, but it used to come on in that era. But the host, Roger Lodge, that is Pamela Paulshock's husband. For all you Blind Date fans out there, and I can tell you this: if you did watch Blind Date at this time, it was definitely better than WCW. My fucking God.
The pay-per-view is built around the main event of a straitjacket steel cage match between Booker T and Scott Steiner for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. The semi-main event is Goldberg and Lex Luger. If Goldberg lost, he would be forced to leave WCW. The event did have a couple of title matches as well, and some stuff. The Insiders taking on the Perfect Event in a New Blood versus Millionaires Club angle. Oh God. All right, so we get into the action. We open up with a WCW Cruiserweight Championship match as Mike Sanders, the champion, takes on Kwee with Paisley. Paisley, of course, is Charmel, Booker T's wife. This is her first introduction into the business as being Kwee-Wee's manager, I believe, or was she a Nitro girl, maybe? Nevertheless.
I don't think she was ever a Nitro girl.
She was.
She was.
She was. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. My thoughts on this match are this. I think Mike Sanders had a ton of potential. I think that there was some level of it to Mike Sanders. He was really good on the mic. He was really good at the stuff between the moves, but he at this point is still just way too motherfucking green to be opening a pay-per-view in a cruiserweight match that is meant to. You put that match in the opener because it's fast. This was not fast-paced. This was not a cruiserweight match. It was not good between two guys who, at this point in their careers, aren't that great of wrestlers. But Mike Sanders, I thought, had potential. I don't know what you guys think.
The pairing is super weird because it's like two guys that shouldn't be wrestling and they're wrestling each other. Like there's no.
Who's that?
It makes no sense. And I thought Sanders was I thought he had some potential. I don't know if I saw as much as you did, but I thought he had some potential. He was in WWE's system for a while after the sale. I don't really know. I think he might have been on a SmackDown too, but he was not somebody who got a push. But this match is where all of the natural born thrillers attack Ming, and
they're pussies.
They look like the big pussies. Oh my god, they threw the shittiest fucking heat, man. I mean, it looks so bad, and this is where I mean
they were afraid to hit him.
Yes,
like, I don't want to stiff this guy. He might beat me up. He's gonna fucking beat you up if you make it look like shit. That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah. It was so bad.
It does set the pace for what you are to expect the entire night, which is those guys not knowing how to work and being scared to work with guys that are above them. That's really what happens almost all night with those guys.
Hey, that being said, this was not good by any stretch, but there are far more egregious things on this fucking show than this match.
It was a 7 minute and 50-second match that was forgettable.
Yeah.
Our next match is a triple threat tag team match. It's 3 counts. Shane Helms and Shannon Moore take on Evan Courageous and Jamie Noble and the Young Dragons. There is a backstage interview with Evan Courageous and Jamie Noble before this match that I must say I did chuckle at. I thought it was funny. Jamie Noble hit some things where they're talking about Evan Courageous is doing this. I'm so sexy, every girl wants me kind of fucking thing, right?
But he's doing it badly.
He's doing it badly.
He was doing his stupid fucking North Kakalaki thing. He was doing that all the time in this era, and it was never good, and it was always cringe.
It was funny in that this is the first time they're going to team together, and they're doing an interview, and he's talking about how he used to drive his Cadillac in North Kakalaki, and he had this, and long story short, he ends up talking about this girl, how he was with this girl, but she was trash, and he dumped her, and it turned out it was Jamie Noble's sister, and like the way that Noble kind of like processes it in his head and then like realizes what happened. I just thought it was funny. I know they're both garbage at that point. Timing was very good.
Jamie Noble did okay. Here's the thing. I don't know what this says about Jamie Noble, but he's very good at playing the clueless rube. Like we've seen that. So like there's some comedic value in that. But Evan Courageous just killed it for me because I just want that guy to go away every time he's on my fucking screen, man.
They gave these guys 10 minutes.
I didn't want him to go away when he was with Medusa in '99, but other than that, yeah,
Oh, and Liam Meow is with the Young Dragons, by the way. Yikes. It feels that here was my thoughts on this match. It felt to me like they went, hey, you guys know the Hardys and Edge and Christian? Yeah, go do one of their matches. And that's what they all went out there and tried to do was a Hardy Boys Edge and Christian match. And it was just spots. It was just guys that don't do spots great doing spots sloppily. It was
and the thing that sucked for me was because of everything that happened before the match, I already didn't give a fuck about the match. Like the 3 count thing in the ring, like them trying to be boy band guys, and I'm just like, this is so fucking trash. I hate Evan Courageous. I'm just like, this is just not going to be good. And so even if the spots did look good, I don't even know if I would have cared,
right?
Because I was already so bitter at how much I
there
hated.
There is one spot that I do want to point out. So obviously there's 6 guys in this match, right? And they do the dive spot where everybody dives to the outside, everybody's on the outside, and then Liam Meow goes to the top rope. And if you don't know who Liam Meow is, hit pause, go Google Liam Meow. This woman is...
Then rub one out, then come back.
Yes, exactly. Because she's hot for an Asian chick.
What the fuck?
B,
what?
What the fuck?
I don't know where that came from. But here's where I'm getting lost in the fact that I want to point this out. The woman is 5'2", maybe weighs 95 pounds.
Yeah.
Maybe.
She jumps off the top rope onto this pile of dudes and they all fall down like she would have made them fall down. Like there is zero chance. She could have jumped as hard as she wanted to, and those dudes could have just let her bounce off their chest and they wouldn't have known
it. They all timbered over like dominoes in unison.
It was like, what are you?
This was the beginning of wrestling is for everyone. It's a show. Just do it.
This whole pay-per-view, if there was a woman at ringside, she definitely got involved in the match, in every single match. Back to the first one, Paisley got involved in the match with Kiwi and Sanders. Leah Meow gets involved in this match. I mean, we'll go through it the entire night. Every time there is a woman, they make sure that they get that woman involved in the match in some form or fashion. Our next match is a weird feature match as radio icon Mancow takes on Jimmy Hart in a singles match. Now, let me say this. I grew up in Chicago when Mancow was a big deal, and I was a huge Mancow fan.
He started here first. He was in the Bay Area first before Chicago. Yeah.
He was really good. What I didn't know, I didn't listen to Howard Stern at the time, was that he was basically ripping off Howard Stern's shtick and doing the whole kind of whack pack kind of deal and creating characters that were in and around the show, and really was biting a lot off of Howard Stern. And what ended up happening, what ended up coming out much later, is that he admitted that yes, he stole a lot of his shtick, and all of his, that was all basically a shtick, a gimmick, and that he was actually this weird ultra conservative Republican. He still hosts a show in Chicago. It's like a very right wing politic show in Chicago still, but like he's completely changed who he was and then and who he is now. But this crowd in Milwaukee, like he was big in Chicago, he was kind of big in Milwaukee, but this crowd didn't give a single fuck about anything that these two dipshits were doing. And what I thought was amazing, the only thing worth talking about this is 3 Count comes in and interferes on behalf of Jimmy Hart, right? They drop kick the two fucking guys, and Mancow's on top of Jimmy Hart, right? 3 Count like hits him, and Mancow completely no-sells 3 Count at all and just keeps punching Jimmy Hart. He completely no-sells 3 Count him entirely.
He did.
Like the whole thing was ridiculous.
Like small children, he just pushed them off. Yeah, the crowd.
Well, they are small children.
Poor Shane Helms. He's a WWE producer now, Nick. Come on. But no, I mean, we should check. Maybe fucking Alan Funk. Maybe Kiwi will be the next WWE producer. But I think nobody liked.
Y'all say poor Shane Helms. I say poor Jimmy Hart. He's the fucking victim in all this shit.
Well, no, this match, I mean, the crowd didn't like it because there's been 3 matches, and it's like 3 matches that should have never been on pay-per-view. I mean, like all this, it just followed like 2 shitty matches, and it's like, all right, here's this comedy match to break up your serious wrestling, and it's like, fuck, I haven't seen serious wrestling yet. Like,
here's this comedy match that isn't fucking funny.
Right.
No.
Yes. The one last thing I will point out is that Mancow cuts a promo before the match. And
oh my God.
Nowhere at the end of the promo, he just turns on Mark Madden and calls him a fat piece of shit.
Yeah.
I love that.
He literally called.
I messaged you guys when it happened. I
popped for that.
Mancow just called Mark Madden a fat piece of shit, and I love it.
It was amazing. That's worth going back and watching just to hear, because even Mark Madden is like caught off guard by it. He's like, "Whoa, wait, what the fuck?"
When you think he's done, he stops talking for like a fraction of a second.
Right.
Fat piece of shit.
Exactly. The promo's over. He like sees Mark Madden out of the corner of his eye, and he's like, "Oh, you know, one more thing. Fuck you, you fat piece of shit." It was amazing. So we've seen it. I think in here somewhere is some backstage stuff with Chronic and Disco Inferno and Alex Wright, where there's supposed to be a match later where the Filthy Animals, Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio are supposed to wrestle Alex Wright and Disco Inferno, but Disco is trying to get out of the match. So he's trying to hire Chronic in a very APA ripoff style.
I was going to say, the backstory to this is that Vince Russo created Chronic, and that was his version of the APA.
100%. And that's what they were trying to do. I will say, I like the idea of okay, you want to pay me? I'm going to give you 8 minutes. No, actually, I'm going to give you 7.5 minutes. I did like that whole, but again, it's guys that you don't care about doing the angle, so it doesn't really.
It also gave away the finish though too, because
Exactly.
once they said 7.5 minutes, it was like, all right, you know exactly how this is gonna end.
This
and
is
it's
gonna
exactly how it
run.
ended.
I'll give you one
Yeah.
guess how long that match goes.
Yeah, and at what time, Mark? Like that, it was very obvious what was gonna happen.
Exactly. Our next match is for the WCW Hardcore title. Crowbar, your champion, defends against Big Vito and Reno. Reno, of course, being one of the guys from the power plant. This is the worst of hardcore wrestling. Hardcore wrestling. It was unbearably bad watching the three guys. And there's some points like Big Vito takes out a fucking road cone and a bat, and he does this spot where he sticks the guy's sitting in the corner, and he puts the road cone like under his ball sack, and then he takes the bat and he hits the bat into the back of it, so it looks like it. And Mark Madden goes, oh, that's the Italian enema. And I was like, oh my God, this is just atrocious. I had to fast.
When it's a spot like that, it's like, why don't you just hit the guy in the balls with the fucking baseball bat? It's a fucking hard match.
Yeah.
It's just like, it completely takes me out of it. It was just, this is like, for this was of the era hardcore wrestling, like what WWF was doing, where their hardcore matches were just like comedy bullshit with like a lot of weapons. Like
Al Snow literally had a bowling ball that he would roll into people's nuts.
I remember that. Yeah,
it is completely forgettable, and 7 minutes and 50 seconds of your life you'll never get back if you watch it.
Have we had the Mean Gene Oakland promo yet with Miss Jones?
Miss Jones, what's that one?
The Cat's valet.
The Cat.
That's coming up. That's before his match.
Okay.
We do now have the Filthy Animals, Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio. This, of course, is Rey Mysterio without the mask Rey Mysterio, which is so odd. And like, I guarantee you, if he could go back and do it over again, he never would have lost the mask, because it's a terrible idea. He looks like he's 14. It's terrible. It doesn't work.
And he still looks like he's 14.
It just doesn't work, Rey Mysterio without a mask. The match is whatever. There is one spot where Brian Clark gives Rey Mysterio one of the most unsafe power bombs I've ever seen someone give another human being.
Yeah.
It was so bad, where it's so obvious, where Rey's neck and head snap back against the mat. There's no way he wasn't concussed after that. There's just no. It was so dangerous.
Brian Adams at this point was like a fortress of suckitude, and he just made Brian Clark like worse. Like, Brian Clark as Adam Bomb is actually not that bad. The gimmick itself is fucking atrocious.
Like
and he looks great. And in WCW, the good part of all that Glacier Blood Runs Cold bullshit is Canyon and Mortis. And then when he gets a push in 98 as a singles guy and he's undefeated for a while, as Wrath, he's really good there. But when he got hooked up with Brian Adams, it was never the same again.
Never.
I remember in 98 when they were pushing him as a singles guy, and him and Goldberg had their match on Nitro. I was actually excited to see it, because I was like, oh, fuck. Like, Wrath's been fucking tearing it up, and he's a big motherfucker. And looks good. And okay, let's see what the fuck happens. I have never, ever been a fan of Crush. Ever. Brian Adams, Crush, whatever you want to call him. And
great time his entire career, that guy.
Well, and when you talk to people that have been around, like if you listen to Pritchard's podcast, he says that like one of his biggest advocates was always the Undertaker. He was always really good friends with the Undertaker, so Taker pretty much made it a point to try to keep him on payroll as much as he can. I would say that's probably why he got a second chance when they bought him out. But if you think about it, they had one pay-per-view match, and it was against Undertaker and Kane.
And they fired
him, and then they were fucking gone.
Their ass was so fucking terrible,
And Taker's probably the one that ruined his career, too, because he might have got him jobs, but Pritchard's always alluded to that, too, that people started telling him to work like a quote-unquote big man, and he completely changed his style. Like, and I've seen a lot of Bryan Adams from Portland in 89, 90, and he's like an athletic big guy. And as Crush, pretty much, from very early on moving forward, he's boring and slow, and
the Hawaiian promos where they were trying to make him cool, and it's like, I don't give a shit about this guy with the weird mullet.
Listen, brother.
I will say this though, he's never looked better than he did on this pay-per-view though. From a physical standpoint,
they both look incredible. Like bell rings, they look like they look like wow, that's an impressive tag team. And then the bell rings, and they fucking suck.
I would like to point out one quick thing, because I would like to get Ben's reaction on this. Okay, this is the utter incompetence of WCW marketing and merchandising. So at this time, maybe a few months before I know I had seen it, Chronic had a shirt that said, Chronic 419, got a minute, ? How the fuck do you not make like $1 billion with that shirt, you inept, incompetent fucking dickheads?
Right? If it was a Rob Van Dam shirt, he would still be collecting royalties on it.
Yep. Anybody associated with WWE, or even if it was just like some pop culture, outside of wrestling company decide to sell it, they'd probably make a fucking lot of money. It's like, you guys are so inept.
I agree. Now that makes me think I need to go find a Chronic t-shirt. They got to be out there on eBay or some shit.
I'm sure, probably.
Got to have a Chronic 419 shirt. Yeah, so there you go. The match goes 7 minutes and 46 seconds. Keep in mind, the promo was they were only going to be paid for 7 minutes and 30 seconds. The match literally went 16 seconds after the 7 minutes and 30 seconds was up. Because they bail, Alex Wright gets fucking double teamed, and the match is over, blah, blah, blah.
And that was like, they had worked that gimmick around this time like a ton, which is probably why people didn't care too. They kept doing things where Disco Inferno's getting Alex Wright to pay Chronic to do shit for them, and they would like half-ass do it and piss him off, and it was just getting old. It was so played out.
Disco Inferno, he's a guy that you see, like, he's got his own podcast and stuff now, and so like he has an opinion on stuff. And every time I see
very strong
Disco Inferno, I think to myself very much along the same lines of like what we just talked about all those producers. It's like, why the fuck do I give a shit what Disco Inferno thinks is good wrestling? That guy wouldn't know good wrestling if it fucking hit him in the fucking face.
Only one reason why, because he came up with the greatest gimmick of all time that was never aired, which was Bilding, Bilding, the evil architect. That fucking gimmick should have lived, goddammit. That's the only reason I will ever take Disco Inferno. The evil architect. That was fucking fantastic. Bilding.
If you listen to Pritchard's podcast, though, Conrad had asked him one time, like, because they were doing like a watch along of a random episode of Nitro, and Conrad's like, "Can you look at any of these guys and think if you would have signed them in the Attitude Era, if they would have done well in WWE?" And Disco was one of the guys he says he thinks could have done well over there, and I think he could have too.
Yeah, I do too. I think that they dropped the ball on him in that era, like 97, 98-ish, because he had a really good thing with Jacqueline too. Like, they had a really good man-woman thing that at the time was very ahead of its time, and that people believed
early on in the run of Disco Inferno. He wrestles. I want to. It's a Japanese guy, and he wins the match when the disco ball comes from the ceiling, and he throws it into the guy's back, and it's I can't remember. It was one of the Japanese guys that was managed by Sonny Ono, where this guy's like been like it was one of the guys that I want to say it's Takada or
Nagata.
Might
have been Yuji Nagata.
Yuji Nagata. And Yuji Nagata's got to sell this fucking disco ball to the back as a finish. It was atrocious.
I always thought with him that he was very much like Honky Tonk Man, where he was not that good in the ring, but if given and he could get over if you give him the chance to get it over.
I'm probably shitting on him more than I should, I guess. All right, Ernest Miller and Mrs. Jones, they are at a backstage interview. With Gene, and me and Gene. The whole thing starts very uncomfortably because
goddamn perverted.
It starts with me and Gene like looking up and down what's her fuck Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Like he says some sort of really uncomfortable sexist comment to her, and
Yes.
then like right into the fucking interview. It's fucking terrible.
And then he ends it with, I've got it pulled up right here because I texted you guys and said this was the highlight of the pay-per-view so far. He looks at her as she's walking off the camera and he says, Miss Jones, you know I can rock your world. A little shot of vitamin G and it'll keep you up all night.
Yes, he is full on dirtbag Mean Gene at the end of WCW.
He really is.
He's cussing when he interviews Jeff Jarrett all the time and shit. Like he does not give. He has zero fucks to give in 2000. Yes.
It's like if you just let Mean Gene do whatever the fuck he wanted to do, that's what he's doing at this point. Because he's saying some crazy shit, he's doing some crazy shit.
But he was always borderline like that. Like, I think he could not wait to get away from WWF and really cut loose, because in '93 he does Battle Bull, and it's either like maybe his first or second pay-per-view, and he's pulling names with Ric Flair's current wife Fifi, and he is sexually harassing and ogling her on every fucking time they pull the names out. He's making like dick sucking jokes when she bends down. He is full on acting a fucking fool.
Yeah.
But I've seen him do this in person, and they feed into it. Like they don't stop him. They don't say, Gene, stop. They just say, oh, Gene, and they hug him. Like, that's why he does it.
Well, because it's
old man, yeah.
Well, and because it's Gene Okerlund at the bar. So this is like the Gene that they drink with and have fun with. So it's just, like, what the fuck? Yeah.
And this match, Ernest Miller and Shane Douglas, is weird in that I don't know who the babyface is and who the heel is. I think they're both heels.
Yeah, it was very awkward.
And the match is garbage. And I like Shane Douglas, but he's coasting at this point. And Ernest Miller has always been fairly trash.
Shane Douglas is fucking stomping Ernest Miller, runs to the ropes and comes off and stomps him again. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This is like the worst of the worst shit. It's just it makes no sense.
If I keep saying this, if you listen to the podcasts, Shane Douglas is probably very fucking bitter at this point, because if you believe what you hear, which if I've heard it from enough reputable places where I do, Shane Douglas was supposed to be part of that merger when Perry Saturn and Benoit and Malenko and Eddie all went to WWE in February.
So we don't want you. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what, though?
They kept him. I think I don't remember who made the call on it, but they kept him in the dark about when their meeting was, because they thought that Shane had too much heat from when he was there before, that if they brought him with as part of the package deal, he might hurt their chances of getting signed. And Shane found out about it and literally knew that they were in Florida at a meeting and on the phone with Malenko like, hey, what's going on? And Malenko's like still bullshitting him after he knows that they're down there.
It's pretty shitty, but you can also understand, because you put yourself in those guys' shoes. He did have a lot of heat. It was pretty well known that he had a lot of heat.
He played to it. He tried to make money off of it. Yeah, it wasn't like he didn't know it was there. And I'll say this too. He wasn't going to go to WWF and succeed, because in 2000, he's done. We just watched the match. He's done. He's physically broken down. And I'm not blaming him, because he went through crazy shit. His fucking sinuses exploded on a fucking airplane, okay? Like, his body had been through so much shit. His elbow and back was all fucked up. But he wasn't ever going to get signed there. He had a 3-year deal with WCW for $1.2 million. He did okay.
Yep, he did fine. Yep. Our next match is a singles match. Bam Bam Bigelow was originally supposed to take on someone. I don't remember who he was supposed to originally take on, but
Mike Awesome.
Mike Awesome, there you go.
That 70s guy, Mike Awesome.
The Mike Awesome challenge.
Oh my God.
So Mike Awesome is out of the match. Commissioner Ric Flair puts in Sergeant AWOL. Of course, the wall.
Let's pause for a second. Does anybody else not give a shit that Ric Flair is the commissioner?
Ric Flair didn't give a shit that he was the commissioner.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it was very obvious
Yeah.
that he was like there collecting a paycheck as well. He
Yeah.
obviously saw what was going on as well. But yes, so the Misfits is a thing, right? It's Hugh Morris as General Rection, and everything is like a weird joke, right? The Wall is Sergeant AWOL. Chavo Guerrero's in it.
Lieutenant Loco.
Yeah,
From Stripes.
Fucking vomit.
Yeah, Lash LaRue is in it as well, and it's weird.
Known piece of shit. Van Hammer was in it, and would not be Private Stash to keep the joke intact, and had to be Major Stash because the rank was too low if he was Private Stash.
Right, I remember that.
Oh my fucking god! What do we say about marks in the wrestling business? Jesus Christ!
This is a 5-minute and 41-second shit show of a match between.
It's so bad.
Bam Bam Bigelow is pretty well done at this point, and the Wall is garbage. The guy is terrible.
I don't think it's too long after this that Bam Bam passed away.
Yeah, it's a couple of years after. He's not in good shape, and like AWOL got better to me at like a couple of years after, like as he
TNA and shit.
Yeah. Actually, that's really sad when your best work is in TNA. But there was a spot in this match where he throws a kick and it goes to the chest, and Bigelow is like, "I'm not selling that," and then he does it again. And he still only gets it chest high, and Bigelow is finally like, "Fuck, all right, I guess I'll bump." Like in defeat, it was so bad. It was just so bad.
I will say I do like, and I was at first I didn't. They kind of got me because at the end of this match, Bigelow wins, and then he kind of like slumps over, like he passes out, right, and like something's wrong, and they do a fairly decent job of like making you think like, what the fuck is going on here? Like medical staff come out, and like the announcers are kind of weird, and they're like, well, let's cut to Tony in the back and let's see what's going on. I thought they, again, on a pay-per-view where everything is trash, the idea of what they're about to do here, I think is really creative, but it's in the middle of this shit pay-per-view with a bunch of people you don't give a shit about, so it all falls flat. Because what happens is we see earlier in the pay-per-view, backstage, Lance Storm is talking to Bigelow. It's important. Bigelow is now passed out and is getting carted out as the next match is starting, which is General Erection versus Lance Storm for the United States Championship. And as the match is getting started, Bigelow gets up off the gurney, attacks General Erection, Hugh Morris, and helps Lance Storm, blah, 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 blah. I like the idea, but again, it's in the middle of a pay-per-view where you don't give a shit about it happening.
Guys that you don't give a shit about.
Right.
I didn't like the idea because this is in that time, 98, 2 years before this, Bagwell went down legit on live TV and really fucked himself up.
Yeah.
Owen was the year before this. Like, I really didn't, at this point, like, I really didn't want to. There's a way to do stretcher angles that look, like pro wrestling stretcher angles. But this one, like, they really kind of went to make it look like he was really hurt. And it was just like, fuck, why are you doing this? And it's a bad idea.
They did the same thing a couple months later with Chyna at the Royal Rumble, where she like stumbled after doing a backflip and laid there on the mat with her hand like stuck up in the air, not moving, and like Lawler gets off commentary. It's like, like you said, if you're gonna do a stretcher job, have someone beat the shit out of someone and then pull out the stretcher and pull them out. Don't play it off like it's not part of the fucking show.
Yeah,
especially like you said, like fucking Bagwell fucked himself up legitimately in '98. If that's not reason enough after Owen dies, that
it is in poor taste, ultimately, yeah.
And do not forget, oh my God, we almost glossed over it. The promo before this match is Bagwell, where he talks about breaking his fucking neck when he's talking about Bigelow laying in the ring. It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing, man?
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're drunk.
And General Erection wins and becomes the new United States Heavyweight Champion. Yay! Our next match is Jeff Jarrett and Buff Bagwell in a singles match. They go 11 minutes and 10 seconds. It's pro wrestling between two guys.
It was the best match on the card up to that point.
How dare both of you bury the fucking lead, okay? The lead in this match was
a lot of it, I'll promise you.
Yeah, my lord and yours, Stevie fucking Ray. So Jeff Jarrett cuts a promo before the match where he means to call himself a superstar, and he calls himself a superstar. And Stevie Ray, like not really knowing any better, points it out. And Tony Schiavone, who's a babyface straight announcer, he can bury the heel, but he's so done at this point. And he's like, he meant superstar. You know what he meant. And Stevie Ray's like, I don't know what he meant. And then he takes a pause and he says, and I quote, I'm an inquisitive guy, Tony, because suckers got to know. God bless him. He set it up and he fucking smashed it. That made me think Vince Russo fucked up. Vince Russo fucked up trying to turn Booker T into The Rock. He should have turned fucking Stevie Ray into The Rock. That was reminiscent of it doesn't matter what your name is. You didn't see it coming. He set it up perfectly and fucking spiked them all. God bless him. It was the best thing.
On what we all agree is maybe the shittiest pay-per-view we've ever watched. Stevie Ray is the undoubted.
He's so funny. He's so
funny because it's in an era where you could say whatever and he says whatever.
Yeah,
it's fucking great. It's like
I don't know what he meant.
Yeah, it's like that old white guy. What was the bald guy that was on the that did commentary? The old football player,
Art Donovan.
Art Donovan, right?
Yeah.
It's like Art Donovan if Art Donovan was a black guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much does this fella weigh?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all he said the whole show. But Stevie Ray is also way too smart for his own good at certain times too. And we'll talk about that in the main event because he knows what's going on and he's calling people out for stupidity and kind of burying the fucking company and the show at the same time. It's hilarious.
Good for him.
Yes. Yeah. Now it's time for our WCW World Tag Team Championship match. The Insiders. Honk, honk. Diamond Dallas Page and Kevin Nash taking on the Perfect Event, Chuck Palumbo and Sean Stasiak, who are the champions at this point. There's a promo earlier with the Insiders where Kevin Nash is reading a magazine, clearly not giving any shit about the fact they're recording a promo. And Diamond Dallas Page is like trying to engage Nash into the promo. And there's a point where there's like this awkward silence where DDP like looks up at the camera, like not breaking the fourth wall, looking at the camera, like almost like looking at the guys behind the camera. Like, what do I do here? What do we do? It's a very awkward promo where Kevin Nash is doing his thing where he like is not really staying on script and just saying whatever and saying wacky shit. It's a really awkward promo. There's this really awkward moment with those guys.
They did a promo where in this era where the fucking production light fell down behind them while they were fucking doing it. This is the epitome of like horrible pro wrestling program.
It really is. The presentation, really the production of this scene of this entire pay-per-view felt amateurish. It really did. For everything about it felt very amateurish.
As much as we've buried TNA in a short time here or do it on social media, they have never put on a pay-per-view this bad ever in their history ever.
You're absolutely right, because I was thinking as I was watching this, I don't know that this is worse than TNA's worst pay-per-view.
It's way worse.
I've never watched a TNA pay-per-view.
I've seen many.
Imagine a bad pay-per-view. This was worse than that, though.
TNA pay-per-views, I mean, they were generally okay because they always had good talent and they would just let them go out there and have, they have long matches. The booking in them would never make any sense, but the matches themselves are really good. And speaking of which, not to sidetrack, but that should be your guys' homework assignment because you guys talked about Angle and TNA. Watch Kurt Angle against Ken Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, from 2010 at Lockdown. I'm sure it's online. It is far and away Ken Anderson's best match by far, and it will make you marvel at how good Kurt Angle is with possibly a top 10 finish to a pro wrestling match that I've ever seen.
Whoa. Okay. That's
Kurt Angle versus Ken Anderson. Okay.
I'll
Swear
check
to
it out.
God. Swear to God.
The Insiders do become the WCW World Tag Team Champions in a match that went 14 minutes and 55 seconds. I fast forwarded through a lot of that match because I couldn't imagine that it was going to be great. I don't know if there was anything in there that I missed that I need to go back for, but I can't imagine that there was.
No.
Our next match is Goldberg taking on Lex Luger in a singles match, with the stipulation being, had Goldberg lost, he would have to been forced to leave WCW. They gave this match a whopping 5 minutes and 53 seconds.
This was sad.
This was difficult for me.
Me too.
Being a very big Lex Luger fan, like you could really tell that like he still looks fucking amazing.
From the neck down, he looks like a different human.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's I literally I've got the message that I sent you guys. He looks great, but you can see from the neck up, he is in very bad shape.
Yeah, that's exactly. He did not look well. That's why it was hard for me to watch, because we can all kind of shit on guys and have a good time, but it's like when you see somebody out there that's like, really struggling with issues or substances, and they've kind of done a number on themselves like this, it's hard for me to watch, sometimes, man, and especially for Lex. Like I was a Lex Luger fan for a while growing up, and just looking at him like this, I mean, he looks like a completely different human being. He does not look well at all.
Yeah, it was tough,
and clearly he was not in good shape because they did not let these two do much at all. They were in and out. Goldberg wins.
At this point, I don't think Lex could have done much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it didn't need to be any. I mean, it could have been a minute shorter. I mean, they didn't need to be any longer than that. It was fine. It was, the goal was to get Goldberg a win. They did. It was done. Again, like far from the most egregious thing on the show compared to some of the other shit.
Sure, yes. They didn't waste our time when they definitely could have.
Yeah.
The main event of the evening is a straitjacket caged heat match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Scott Steiner with Madeja taking on Booker T. At one point in this match, Scott Steiner gets the straitjacket put on him. And then proceeds to rip the arms off of the straitjacket, which then makes the entire gimmick of the straitjacket irrelevant. Like, was the whole thing for that spot? The whole match was for that spot for him.
And don't gloss over what genius Stevie Ray pointed out as he's screaming at his brother, who takes no less than 3.5 fucking days to get the straitjacket on him on the first place. Why don't you just cover him? He's just screaming. Why don't you just pin him? Like, he's trying to put this straitjacket on Scott Steiner, who is practically unconscious, instead of just putting his fucking hand on him and covering him 1, 2, 3. It took forever to get there. The payoff was him ripping it off anyway. This is WCW to a T. It's poorly executed and poorly conceived all at the same time. It's fucking unreal.
And that Steiner recliner looks so fucking stupid because it's done with, like, when you're on your knees. There's nothing. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
It's like John Cena.
Watch the Iron Sheik put someone in the fucking camel clutch. All right.
Yeah.
That is a goddamn.
It's like John Cena's STF. Like that, what is that? It's not hurting him.
Exactly.
Scott Steiner wins by technical submission to become the WCW World Heavyweight Champion in 13 minutes and 10 seconds.
12 minutes.
That was a rough one.
Never needed a Brock Lesnar, Bill Goldberg finish. That was when we needed it.
That was,
I will say that this was really bad. I would have to go back and watch it, and Nick's phone will fucking curse us into it at some point, probably. Jesus Christ. But New Blood Rising 2000 is probably fucking worse. That might be the worst pay-per-view of all time. That's when Goldberg refuses to follow the script. They say that. That's a quote from Tony Schiavone on commentary, and walks out on the match. It is so bad from like start to finish.
Well, it would be hard pressed to be worse than that pay-per-view.
I think I'm convinced this might be number 2 now. Like There's some really bad WCW 2000 stuff that I think if you go back and watch, maybe it might be worse than this. But this right now, in my mind, would be number 2, like worst.
Right? There may be other pay-per-views like that Legends of Wrestling pay-per-view.
Yeah, but that doesn't get. They're not owned by a multimedia conglomerate. Okay, like
no major professional wrestling company has had a worse pay-per-view than the one that we just sat.
Well, and it's like Nick said in the thread. It felt fucking indie from start to finish. Like
it felt like an independent show with a fucking production budget.
Yeah, people doing like you have matches that are spot, shitty punches, shitty heat, bad backstage skits, bad promos, like bad ideas for angles, like it felt indie from like bad.
The up and comers, you can tell actually care about their stuff. Meanwhile, the stars on the show don't give a fuck. It's just like a goddamn indie show.
And yeah, it really is in a lot of ways. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap this up. We got to do our picks. We got to put the fucking good thing in the machine.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we had previously already drawn Survivor Series
2000. Do we want to just do that?
But at the same point in time, Sunday's January 2nd. It's Royal Rumble season. I kind of want to start watching the Royal Rumbles.
We did only pick a pay-per-view because we thought we were going to need a second pay-per-view. So we don't have to commit to Survivor Series 2000.
Oh, yeah. So let's do that.
Anybody will be hard
Rumbles. Okay, so we're going to do a Royal Rumble. We're just going to put all the Royal Rumbles.
Well, I'm not putting all the Royal Rumbles. I'm only doing the first decade. So I'm going to do. So this week we'll do. Well, I got 88 and 89 in here too, but then 1990 through 1999. Next week we'll do 2000, 2009. Week after that, 2010, 2019.
Dig that idea a lot.
So on and so forth. So here we go.
Yeah. All right. Let's do it.
I'm praying for 1997.
Royal Rumble.
Oh shit, that's actually not bad either. Royal Rumble 1991.
Ooh.
Rockers Orient
Express. One of the best opening matches in Orient Express.
It is also the best event poster, maybe of all time.
Yes.
All the drawing of them all like going down the street,
marching towards the ring. Yes.
Oh, it's so good, and they have like all the guys detailedly drawn out. Yes.
And I'll say this too. As much as everybody talks about the gimmick because of how controversial it was at the time, Sergeant Slaughter is one of those guys that, like, because of G.I. Joe, everybody thinks of him as a babyface, which is in fact like his worst work. As a heel in Crockett, he's so fucking good. And other places, he's so fucking good. He's an asshole drill sergeant. And when he comes back in this era, he has a good match on this show with the Order. Enough fucking said. Okay. Yep. And if you go and if you look, that's another one that people should check out 110%. The WrestleMania match with Hogan it's okay. It's pretty good. But go back and watch the Desert Storm match from 91. Put it in MSG, Desert Storm, Hogan, Slaughter. That is a fucking great pro wrestling match. And it's probably the last, I guess you could argue maybe WrestleMania 18 with The Rock, but it's the last great pro wrestling match of Hulk Hogan's career. He fucking blades. It is fucking tremendous heat throughout. Him and Slaughter were money on that night. It'll make you mad that it's not the main event of WrestleMania 7, and what we got as the main event was WrestleMania 7 actually happened. Like, that match should have happened exactly as it did at WrestleMania 7, and the show would have been like probably legendary.
Yeah, probably. So as we like to do before, now that we know what we're going to watch, of course, we talked about it. The Rockers taking on the Orient Express in the opening match.
Fucking love Pat Tanaka.
19 minutes and 15 seconds. They give those guys all the time, and they use every second of it.
Fuck yeah.
This is the match I'm going to say is the Nick Cutler match on the card. Big Boss Man taking on the Barbarian with Bobby Heenan. Further little tease for you. They give those guys 14 minutes and 15 seconds.
And you know what? It's not fucking bad.
Yes.
My recollection is
championship match. Sergeant Slaughter with General Adnan taking on the Ultimate Warrior. We have a singles match, the Mountie with Jimmy Hart taking on Coco Beware. Our semi-main event of the evening is Ted DiBiase and Virgil taking on Dusty and Dustin Rhodes. And, of course, the Royal Rumble match, which we won't spoil who wins, but, I mean, almost everybody knows who wins the 91 Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, there's some interesting names. Texas Tornado. Paul Roma is in this Royal Rumble.
Fuck yeah, he is. The Warlord.
Saba Simba is in this Royal Rumble.
Saba Simba!
It's Jimmy Snuka.
This was one of Bulldog's first matches back after re-signing.
Shane Douglas is in this one.
Is Roddy Piper
Greg
on
the Hammer
commentary?
Valentine.
If Roddy Piper's on commentary, he might, because he used to do this all the time. He would.
It's Gorilla and Roddy Piper. Yep.
There we go. I don't know if he'll do it on this show, but he would commonly flip out that they were calling him Saba Simba when it was clearly Tony Atlas.
No shit.
No,
yeah,
he did it.
That. He did. If he didn't do it on this show, that's fine. But he did it on commentary a couple times. Why are you calling him Saba Simba? That is Tony Atlas. Like that he did that on commentary once. I will say,
Gorilla and Roddy Piper do have amazing chemistry as a commentary team. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
I liked it when Heenan went on to commentary in late 91. So it would have been SummerSlam 91. It was a 3-man team, and it was Heenan, Gorilla, and Roddy all on the table. And I was like, fuck, this commentary is amazing.
Well, and we get Royal Rumble. I mean, the year after this, I mean, Heenan, he might give the best broadcast performance by any commentator ever.
Oh, absolutely.
That is phenomenal. If you can say, announcers add to matches and the product in so many ways, but the Flair title win, no announcer has ever made a title win or anything significant happen mean more than Bobby Heenan on that show. He is fucking tremendous. Yep. He acted like he just won like a coach that just won the fucking Super Bowl.
The entire way.
Tremendous. Yep. And when he finally gets it, yes, just completely go. He's ecstatic. It is so good. He's so awesome.
I think it's great at the beginning when Flair comes out at number 3 and he starts cussing on the mic.
yeah.
And you just hear the microphone fumbling, and Gorilla's just like, sit down before you have a heart attack.
Yeah, and he used to do when he commentates on Flair's retirement match against Perfect on Raw, Flair walks over to him and he does it in front of the camera. He pulls out a little hammer and acts like he's going to hand it to Flair. He was always so great with Flair. He's so fucking good, man.
Before we go, guys, the world of professional wrestling and independent wrestling lost a good dude this week. I know you guys probably. I don't know if you ever worked any shows with him or not. Marcus Crane. He's mostly known for his deathmatch stuff. Worked with GCW. Worked in Japan. Worked a match with Jun Kasai. Not that long ago. He passed away in his sleep at the age of 33 this last week, and he was a really good dude. I don't know if you guys had a lot of interaction, but I did. I had a chance to talk with him often, on Facebook and whatnot, and seeing him at shows back in the day. It's a bummer, and rest in peace to a really good dude. So
the first thing that came to mind when I saw that was my last interaction with him was because of the thread that you and Vito had put up about my interactions with AJ Gray.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcus had commented on it and said, fuck Nick Cutler, because he told me that he called me a yarder, and at whatever show it was, I had apparently talked shit to this guy to his face at a show years prior, and I honestly did not fucking remember it, but for some reason I just felt like I wanted to reach out to him. So I DM'd him, and I was just like, hey man, I'm not saying I didn't say what you're telling me that I said. I'm telling you that I don't remember it. But it sounds like something that I would have done 10 years ago. But now I'm a dad. I've got my own business. I'm not on my way out of the wrestling business, but I'm on my way to not giving a fuck about the wrestling business. And if you have heat with me because of something that I did 10 years ago, I just want to tell you that I'm sorry. That's not me. And the first thing he fucking says is, apology accepted. How do you like being a dad? Like, he fucking skipped over any kind of preamble, and he started talking to me about my fucking daughter.
Yeah, he's just
And we talked for like a good 10 or 15 minutes. That was my last interaction with him. So
yeah.
I'm
He was
glad that I had.
and for what he did as the art of deathmatch wrestling, he was really good at that. Him and Schlack were a really fun tag team. It's definitely, he touched a lot of people there. You will not find anyone that has a bad thing to say about Marcus Crane, and there's a reason for that. So my heart goes out to any of the guys that were friends with him. And man, the deathmatch guys, we're losing them too soon in a lot of cases. And I love deathmatch wrestling, but I hope those guys aren't doing things that are going to hurt themselves in the long term. Not just sticks and stones, but taking pills and shit. And Marcus had recently gone home to get himself sober because he was having some substance issues. But
I'm sure that's to help deal with the the pain.
Yeah, and he also had to have a piece of his skull removed because
and I heard about that too, and that was just an infection, right?
Yeah, an infection that, because a lot of these deathmatch guys, they just suck it up, right? And they're just like, well, I'll just deal with it. And he had a point where he almost died because of that. And so
I would advise everybody, please, to take a look at Mitsuharu Misawa, because his death was not caused by that one match. Like, the autopsy clearly says that it's years of damage to the neck. And Ben, you're probably more familiar with it, but doing fucking gonzo bombs that aren't even the finish and kicking out, just getting dropped right on your head and neck, I don't know how much of that's going on in deathmatch stuff compared to other things, but it all ties in. Just because it won't kill you now doesn't mean it can't lead to something like that later. Please take care of yourself, guys.
Absolutely. I love deathmatch wrestling, but I love guys living past, the age of 30.
Yeah, that's a tragic age. Yeah.
I'm not even, when it comes to pills and stuff, I'm not even in physical pain, but you guys know that I struggle with anxiety sometimes and panic attacks. And it's a very fucking easy thing to fall into as a crutch. That's why I was in the hospital, because I was that close to saying I need to do something, and instead I dialed myself back and finally went to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to deal with stuff up here and my body hurting all the time from some of the shit that I'm doing to it, I can see how it happens, and it sucks that it does.
Well, all right, guys, let's end this now before we all start crying or whatever.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I'm looking forward to watching Royal Rumble. We'll see you guys.
Yeah, we deserve this after what we fucking went
through. We do. 91 Rumble, we do deserve this. So it'll be a quick turnaround, right, guys? We're gonna do Sunday.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll do Sunday.
Quick turnaround. We'll be
back. This is Sunday. A bonus show because we have not been on the past couple of weeks. We don't want you guys to think that we're falling off. And thank you to anybody who's listening. We're trying to get better. We do have some things that I have at least one idea that I think would be a good interactive idea for the audience too, that I'm going to talk to these guys about. So hopefully we can, announce that soon. But any suggestions, comments, or anything like that, that's always greatly appreciated. And we really appreciate everybody checking this out.
All right, fellas, I'm going to go to bed. Till next
time. All right, guys. Have a good night.